Well, to be honest, this is not a first ride video. I have actually done a few set-offs and a few intros and things, and every time I've hit a stumbling block, either the bike breaking down before I've got very far, the video not coming out. So I have been out on it 2 or 3 times and had a couple of problems, you know, mostly fueling. I'll talk about that in some of the riding part of this. So what I'm intending to do today is, so that you can actually see it running, get out and have a bit of a blast on it, come back and just say, well, what's the state of play and where we might be going to. It's always a bloody pain in the bum trying to get all this to come together. Let's see. I'm sure it'll be right this time for a change. Neutral is very easy to find on this bike, and it starts okay. If it's been running the last couple of days, it springs into life straight away. If it's been left for a couple of weeks, it needs coaxing, but it really isn't bad. Gears select really fine, clutches works a treat. I personally think the riding position of all these new adventure bikes is very similar. Although I haven't ridden many, they do seem to sit you in the same way that you were sat on a 70 CB750. Nice and comfortable. Certainly feels good enough for use with modern traffic. Yeah, it picks up well enough, it stops well enough. Now the suspension I have actually done nothing to. I've not even checked if there's damping oil in the front forks. The rear shocks, they're absolutely look like they're shot at, but hey, it does okay. Maybe I'm just getting old, but the twist grip, the throttle, does seem quite heavy. Although I can remember once riding through Manchester on a 80s GSXR 750 with, I think, flat slide carburetors, and the cramp in my hand because of the weight of the throttle was absolutely monstrous. So maybe it was just that's how they were back in the day, and this one might not actually be too bad. Now the handling seems absolutely fine, but I am not ever going to be riding this like a modern sports bike, am I? And even with the probably shot at suspension, it doesn't wallow too much. The twin leading shoe brakes on my last 650 Triumph definitely gave a lot more dive than these do. And that was despite new springs and new fork oil and everything having been cleaned, new seals and everything. Whereas I've never looked inside these forks. Probably daren't. And it picks up lovely. You know, you've got to give it some respect. A little bit of wallow there, bit of a tighter bend coming up. Let's have a bit of brake, and then chuck it in, and around we go. Won't be scraping the pegs though. I don't know why, but for some reason this spike seems to attract more condensation. Now that just might be me, might be absolutely in my head. I have noticed that the clocks steam up quite a bit when I haven't been using it. Now this is being shot actually in October at the beginning, and we've had some wet weather but not any really cold weather. But the amount of condensation I find on the bike in the garage seems much more than I've had on other bikes, and the garage is not a particularly damp garage, although it's not heated. It's just, you know, a strange observation. Certainly if I left it in that garage for 10 years I'd expect it to be very rusty at the end if what I've been noticing happened year upon year. Doesn't feel to vibrate overly, but then again, like I said, I have ridden some old Triumphs in the last few years. I've never set the carbs up yet. I've not balanced them or anything other than cleaned them. I've done a desk balance or a workbench balance, but I still think they'd benefit. Right, let's set off. Show a clean pair of heels to, you know, a lot of cars. All the controls work great, indicators. And they even turn off when you turn them off. Something I forget about. I'm quite amazed actually. I thought I was slightly over the speed limit, but the car with the L plate on behind is pushing me along. You have to laugh, don't you? Going for 6 again. muffle gone now? So overall, I really do like CB750s. I've had a couple now, admittedly ones that were past the prime, but they're quite pleasant to ride. Sufficient power for you to you know, get along quite well. Good enough for riding around in traffic. It'll be interesting to see, you know, if I do change the look and the style of this bike and perhaps put electronic ignition on, how it'll feel then. So nice, this. I really enjoyed that ride, despite the fact, typical English weather, I got soaked on the way back. So should be a good bit of footage there, and some of the other footage I've taken to give you a reasonable video for this one. Anyway, what have I come to the conclusion of? It's now a going bike. I can take it out, come back and have a reasonable expectation of everything going okay. Things I've got to think about. The ergonomics are horrific. The levers are really right at the stretch of my fingers. I haven't got short hands, but it's a real struggle sometimes, especially as I've got the clutch and the brake. The bite is right at the end as well, which doesn't help. So I've got to think about that. I'm also thinking about where I take this bike to next. The thought is maybe cafe racer. I've always liked a flat tracker style, so it's going to be one of those two. But what I want to do is actually make it so that it's everything's been refreshed. I've changed the styling, I've done the paint, different handlebars, probably different controls. I'm going to thinking about electronic ignition, maybe a different charging system so that the electrics are that lot more reliable. So all those things are up for grabs with this bike at the moment. So that's it for this one. If you've enjoyed this, why not think about subscribing or giving us a thumbs up. But no matter what, there'll be something more for you to see about this bike and about our other projects soon.